All right, everybody. It's JJ Conway. If you can hear me, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, a like, or a love, or something like that, because I am in the airport and I don't want to be too loud, but I also want to make sure you can hear me. And I also don't know if this is working very well. So let me know. Let me know. Okay. My flight was significantly delayed. So I thought I was actually going to teach this from the Dallas airport, but I guess I'm teaching it from the DC airport. That's all good. It's all good. I had some good time here. Got some good work done. And again, if you could just let me know that you can hear me. I'm not seeing any indication that my sound is good. So if we could just, well, the test says it's good. All right. Well, we're just going to go ahead and get going. And because I don't want, whenever that flight does get here, sometimes sometimes the airport or sometimes the airline will actually move up the flight. They say, oh, it's delayed 2 hours. And then the flight gets here earlier and then they like rush to get everybody on. So I don't want to risk missing that. But I want to make sure you get everything you came for. Okay. So let me do this. We are covering our Think and Grow Rich lesson today. And I'm trying to pull up the book. It might be my bandwidth because I'm in the airport using the airport Wi-Fi, which we all know that's not the best in the world, right? But I'm not having any trouble. I mean, not having trouble. I am having trouble trying to bring up the book. So I'm going to keep trying. But while I'm doing that, I've got a couple of announcements. Okay. So our 10th annual Women's Wealth Summit, which has formerly known as the Women Building Wealth Together Conference. I just got an email about an hour ago. It's going to be held Tuesday, 3 December on Harbor Island, basically Tampa, Florida. And I just got confirmation from the room people that yes, so we're going to hash out the contract, but at least they've penciled me in. We're going to be down there. The morning will be a private event, and then the afternoon from 2 to 5 will be a public Women Building Wealth Together. No. Women's Wealth Summit from 2 to 5. It'll also be broadcast via Zoom. Okay, so in the next couple of days, we're going to do a speaker call. So if you can help hardworking women and a few good men, then make sure you are in my speakers list, which let me go ahead and put that in the comments, jjclink.com/speakers. All right, let me put that in the comments there. All right, so make sure that you're on the speakers list so that you'll get the first notice, so that you have the first opportunity to sign up. We also have the wait list open for Juneteenth speakers. You can go to speakatjuneteenth.com to be in the first cohort of speakers that'll be evaluated. Okay, we've already got about 120 speakers that have joined the wait list. That doesn't mean that they're all going to be a good fit. So there's always room for you too. Okay, because we look for people that have good energy and we look for people that really care about up-leveling their community. All right, we're going to be in the Fort Worth, Dallas Metroplex. Still working that out. But the dates, it's also going to be online. The dates are June 18th through 2025. Okay. Let's see. Now, okay, finally, if you haven't already signed up for Think and Grow Rich, let me drop that link in the, oh, y'all didn't see that. Hold on. Okay. Let me go ahead and type this link in here, JJC link. C, can't spell in public. TAGR 5, that's Think and Grow Rich 5, because that's the 5th year that I have teaching it with this content, with this particular license. I used to teach it on my own, and then I got my feelings hurt, y'all, because the person, one of my mentors used to teach this, and I was like, well, I teach it. I just want you to know I've been teaching this for a number of years. He kind of looked at me like, well, it's not working. I was so hurt. Oh, y'all, I was so hurt. But the bottom line was I wasn't making money. I wasn't even able to ask people to buy stuff. I felt guilty even asking people to buy stuff. Never mind all the time and energy that I put into it. I still felt guilty asking people to buy stuff. All right. So we're going to do a fairly short lesson today because we should be boarding in about 20-30 minutes. But I really want to make sure that you understand that it's really important to understand that we say we want things, but we don't always actually want them. So for those of you who are new to me and my body of work, I'm JJ Conway, pastor, financial planner, and speaker, and I am delighted that you have chosen to join us in this program. Now, if this is your first class, don't worry. You can always download the recording from our platform. It's jjclink.com. TAGI5. Okay. Your time is your most precious resource. And whether you're listening live or whether you're watching the recording or even listening to this as part of the Building Wealth Together, I mean, the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I am honored and humbled that you would choose to spend your time with me. All right. And so this book has just been amazing. We've done through a lot of really good concepts and especially like 3 bonus lessons with the intro. And you might be feeling like, wow, this is a lot of stuff. I'm never going to be able to listen to it all. That's okay. Get the class and take it one day at a time. Download the MP3s, listen to it while you're walking, while you're driving. The really cool thing about it is even if you've listened to this book or been in my classes before, every year you'll grow. And just even 6 months from now, you're going to be able to listen and you will see how far you have come on your journey. Because I promise you, if you're falling around and you go back now and listen to the author's preface lesson again, it sounds completely different because you're in a different level of awareness. And 6 months from then, you'll be in an even higher level of awareness. Okay. So you can access the portal for the rest of your life. The program's yours to keep. Okay. So go ahead and get the program. Go ahead and get in the portal. And if you're like me and you like a worksheet with blanks and stuff, go ahead and get it now while I'm talking because there's a worksheet for this lesson on desire that's in the portal. It's already there for you. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to pull up my electronic book. Okay, I'm not going to try to do it on the screen here because I'm worried about cutting things off and we're in the airport and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but on page 33 of the introduction, the chapter, not the introduction, the chapter on desire. Okay, I think the essence of this chapter on desire is that desire is energy. And like all energy, okay, energy does 2 things. Energy expresses itself and it expands. And we have to understand that energy it seeks to expand and it seeks to be expressed. That's why when we get all angry because we got some weird email in the middle of the night, we want to hurry up and write it because we want to express the energy that's in us, that's burned up in us. We want to get it out and get it on paper, right? That doesn't mean just because we want to express it doesn't always mean it should be expressed. But the purpose here in this chapter on desire, I feel like this is really the secret. Because what we see is we see an amplitude and a vibration of what it is that we want to be, do, or have. And, we say a lot of times that we live our lives and experience our life in 3 different planes, right? Like we are spiritual beings. We've been gifted with the soul. That's where our emotions, our intellect, our will, our desires, and things like that are, right? And we live in this body through a physical body, right? But the spiritual essence of who and whose we are is always seeking more life, always seeking more expression, always seeking more expansion. And so you will always want to do and have more. Not to say you're not going to be content. Godliness with contentment is great gain. But there's something in us that's pushing us to do more, reach more people, reach more community, have more impact. And at first it starts with a want or a wish. And if we'll stay with the idea, we add to the idea, right? And we'll intensify our thinking. Maybe we share it with a friend. I got this idea. Maybe we take some time and write down the vision or capture it in writing, Who was it? I think it was Earl Nightingale. It said that ideas and dreams are like slippery fish. If they're not gapped with the tip of a pencil, they'll slip away, never to be seen again. And certainly we know that we can write out our dream, right? We can take pictures and create a visual like the vision board, right? All of those things increase the energy in us of that want or that wish or that desire to the point where it becomes a real desire. And then it becomes a burning desire. And then it turns to this place where it becomes this all-consuming obsession. And that's the secret in the book. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be an all-consuming obsession to the exclusion of the Lord. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But, the way that I come to understand is we have to get clear and identifying what it is that we want. And we fall in love with this idea, and it really does become consuming obsession of sorts to other people who their consuming obsession is playing around on TikTok or sitting on the couch swirling their things or watching 8 hours of TV every night, right? Okay, so again, I'm not talking about something that replaces God in our lives, but something that's been given to us by God. And It's the first thing we think about in the morning, right? It's the last thing we're thinking about at night. It's what we're thinking about all day long. Even if we have a regular job, we're still thinking about this calling, this gift, this idea that's in our heart. It's kind of like when you're in seventh grade and you got your first crush, right? You're at the family table, everybody's talking. You look down at your mashed potatoes and you see the face of your crush, right? Because you're still just obsessed with this person, right? You're just a kid. And it's really the same thing. You're pursuing your dream, and all of a sudden you get to this place where it begins to consume and pursue you. And I think, we look at that, we look at how, we look at how we want to do something, but it just looks too hard for us to do. And this isn't right, and that's not right, the time's not right, and my energy's not right, my health is not right, and my husband's not right, and my wife is not right, and my kids, oh, my kids, my parents. How many of us in the sandwich generation, right? There's a glass over here. Hold on a second. Okay. Let's say there was water in this glass. Okay. What would be interesting about the water in this glass is that this glass that holds the water is made of sand, right? If the sand was in its natural state, the water would just kind of sieve right through it, right? It would just soak right in, like you're at the beach. The wave comes in, it gets on the water, and it just soaks into the sand, right? The water goes right through it. But when we put water inside a glass, the glass holds it. In its original state, it was sand. And what we did to the sand is we altered the vibrational frequency of the sand. We put heat into it, which increased the vibrational frequency of the sand, and then moved it from a solid to a liquid, and then turned it into glass. Then we removed the heat, allowed the heat to dissipate, and it hardened in a crystalline form. So now it's a solid. It's still sand. At its core, this is still silica, and I don't know what other stuff, probably imported from China. I don't know. All the other stuff that makes up sand. like I don't know. Is Chinese sand different than American sand? I don't know. Some of the paint is. But we can I digress. We can put water. We can put water inside here and leave it outside. You can't see that when I put there. I'm just gonna put it here like my hands like that. We just leave it out for a day, right? Leave it out for a day, and the water would evaporate. And we would say that the water's gone, but it's really not gone. All it's done is transmuted into a different form. And really either energy is put in or taken away, and it's really changed the frequency of the material. The material is still H2O. Okay, we could take the water and put it in a cup, and we could, because we're creative beings, right? We have dominion over all things. We turn up the dial on the stove, increase the amplitude of the vibration of the heat in the water, and that the molecules begin to vibrate more and more and more and more and more. And the next thing you know, boom, you've got at 211, 212. I think it's 200. I don't know. I'm a scientist in the Air Force. I should have known that, but I've been retired for 4 years, y'all. Somebody drop it in the chat. But at 200 and something degrees, right? Now it starts to boil, and you have a really nice hot cup of tea. But then the next degree up, now it's steam. It's just more of the same energy that's now transmuted it to a higher level of vibration. It's still water. That same steam could power a locomotive. That steam could illuminate a city. Same energy. But when we apply our focused attention, we increase the amplitude of the vibration of our purpose. Just like the water changes, now our purpose's potential is increased. You get more power. I'm holding the glass, there's no water in it, but you get more power out of the water, power potential to generate electricity when you convert it to steam, and that steam expands, and that expansion and that energy increase, it has more per amount of water generates more electricity for people than the drop of water. Okay. Similarly, when we put energy into our dream, energy into our calling, it begins to expand and expand and expand. And at some point, boom, now the potential is changed. It's the same energy, just increased. So can we get really clear? Can we get clear about what it is that we want? Can we, and I'm not talking about this magical, mystical power of thinking, right? But thinking about the fact that God has given us a gift to be able to be creative. And that creativity, that creative thinking, is to be able to think beyond conditions and circumstances, and to use our intellectual faculty of imagination to imagine this life that's beyond our conditions and circumstances. Like, we can actually go to this future place in time and see ourselves living it, experiencing it, and feeling it, making it real. And all of that, y'all, all of that is like adding heat to the sand or the water. It increases the amplitude of the vibration until the point that it takes hold of us and changes us. And we're no longer just somebody who sits around wishing we could do this and wishing we could do that. If wishes were fishes, we'd all be rich, right? But the more we put the energy into it, now it begins to take hold. And what really, really happens, we don't become glass, we don't become seeing, but we begin to believe that it's actually possible. And when everything else in your life is telling you it's not possible, when everybody else in your life is telling you ain't nothing, you ain't never gonna be nothing, when everything else around you is looking like you're never gonna succeed and nothing's ever gonna change, you add energy to that belief, to that wish, to that calling, that desire, and now you begin to believe that it's possible. And we begin to see it. You know, they say seeing is believing, right? Like, but what you're seeing in this imaginative state, I want you to stay with me here, okay? It's an imaginative state. You are imagining this future that you want. It's actually being projected in this physical spirit. It's in this, taken from your physical plane of your body, of your brain, and into the spiritual, the higher level plane. You are now projecting this out, y'all. It's amazing. It's we're going to talk later in this course about the transmutation of radiant energy. It's just how law is. We are energy. And your desire creates more energy, and then you use that energy to get the thing done. And then when you get the thing done, or you get the next thing done, now you really believe you can get it done, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. It's always coming from a higher source and expressing itself into where we're at, you know. And so what we see then is this idea, this dream, this desire you have, right? There was a time you weren't aware of it. Like, you weren't aware of it. It didn't even bubble up in your mind, right? So, like, when I first learned about Think and Grow Rich, I was making $60,000 a year, right? the idea that I'd be making $1 million a year, it didn't even cross my mind. In fact, I was so holier than thou and extra religious, right, that I always thought that to be right with God, you had to be pretty much poor, right? Like, the rich were filthy, evil rich, right? But the idea of me to want $1 million, or and what I'm chasing now, 150 million to change communities, right? The idea of earning 1 million had always been there. It was always in the Lord's mind. In fact, I remember the other day, I was going through some of my old Bible study notes, and Bishop Butler prophesied this like way back in 1997. Like, I was always going to have money, and I always kept ending up broke. I guess, look, some of y'all better than me. I always just kept falling for the flim flam with a smooth talking man, you know, like, oh, I have this savings, let me liquidate it because we're in love. Like, I just kept having these situations, and it never bubbled up into my mind that I could be financially independent for real. It was always in the mind of God, because He'd always called me to do something great. He'd always called me to be a change agent in communities. But it didn't bubble up into my mind. It wasn't in my awareness. But when I increased my thinking for just a little bit, I was able to tap into that desire that the Lord had for me. Now, Napoleon Hill calls this power. We call it God because of our faith, right? I believe that it comes from the Lord, right? Hill calls it infinite intelligence, okay? And I'm going to do a little caveat. Let me get over here for just a little second. I take a little issue with a lot of business people who like to say things like infinite intelligence, and the grand overall design, because they don't want to say God, right? Because they know that the minute that you put a flag in the sand, to put a flag on the moon, you have to be serious. And if I tell you that the calling on my life comes from God, and that I'm going to follow this leading because I believe it's from the Lord, then I am already cutting out all these other people that don't believe in my faith. And in the business world, we don't ever want to cut out anybody. We don't ever want to leave money on the table. We want all the money. We want all the faith. So we say things to make ourselves interact with all the other faiths. But I just want you to be clear about who I'm talking about. Okay? Okay? So anyway, Anyway, let me go back. Let me go back to this. I see the staff is not getting off that flight, so I'm figuring they're going to turn it around real quick, and we are going to get home. My poor baby. He's like, "Mommy, I miss you." I'm like, "I know, honey. I'm gonna spend lots of extra snuggle time with him." Okay. Uh, when we can open ourselves up and just tap into the mind of the Lord's infinite intelligence, we see a life beyond our conditions and circumstances. We see a life beyond our limitations. We see a life that where there's no evidence in this physical plane, right? But it's like clear as day. Seeing is believing, right? But we're seeing it in the spiritual realm, and that expresses itself in our physical form. Everything we see has been created twice, if not more. The table I'm sitting at, these phones, right? Like somebody thought this in their mind. And then Gene Roddenberry put it in Star Trek, and then everybody began to think of it, right? But in any way, however that happened, somebody came aware of an idea, a spirit idea, and then it was a spiritual seed, and then becomes an intellectual seed, and it grows. The more you add desire, it's like adding water to it. Its natural expression is to manifest itself in a physical form. The only thing that would stop that from happening is us. Yeah, the only thing that would stop the idea that comes to our mind from actually eventually becoming a physical idea is us not living what he's saying. See, we're this is a natural process as in heaven as in earth, right? But we can tap into the mind of the Lord and we can become consciously aware of something, an idea that we want, that he wants for us. And if we're going to stay with the idea, if we'll fan that flame, if we'll add energy to our sand, add heat to our water, and fuel that flame of desire, we can then move that thought into physical form. Faith is the substance. And a lot of times people use that scripture. They say, "Oh, faith is the substance of things hoped for." And they use that like, "Oh, I'm just going to hope and I'm going to hope and I'm going to hope." But substance is real stuff. When you really have faith, you start taking action. You start doing stuff. You start learning stuff. You start acquiring stuff. You really think the Lord has called you to build wealth? Then I expect that you're going to have some substance. You're going to start learning how to manage money. You're going to start learning how to say no to those smooth talking men. You're going to learn how to start saying no to your mommy and your daddy and your auntie and your uncle and everybody else with their hands out, right? You're going to learn how to manage this. You're going to learn how to run a business. You're going to learn how to do whatever it is you feel called to do. You're not going to just sit around like, "Oh, one day I hope. You're going to take action, okay? You're going to take action. And that action can be tough if we don't have enough desire. Now, look, I have so much more I want to say on this, but I want to make sure I end in a good place. So I'll probably come back tomorrow or Saturday and do a little bit more teaching on desire. But I'm just going to give you this little thing to judge your desire by, okay? One of my mentors used to teach me back when I was in college at the Air Force Academy. He said, show me your, okay, look, for you young people out there, I know you don't know what none of this is, right? Show me your checkbook and your calendar. Please tell me you know what a calendar is. But I know y'all don't use checks anymore. I had to teach my son how to use a check, and then I felt bad. I was like, how come I ain't ever taught him how to use a check? I guess I never thought he was going to need to use one. Everything's online now. But show me your calendar and your checkbook, and I will tell you what's important to you. You can tell me all day that God first, family second is important. But if your calendar doesn't have any God built in, if your calendar doesn't have anything for your family, then I already know you're lying to yourself. "Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. That's mean. JJ, stop being mean. I'm not trying to learn how to season my words with grace." You are not being completely honest with yourself. Is that nicer? And I'll tell you, let me see if I have it on here. My little one is very protective about his color. So the chamber was green because chamber money, right? He's like, "No, Mom, that's my shade of green. You need to change the chamber to a different shade of green." He likes to see his shade of green on my calendar. Okay? He's on my calendar because I'm not going to let something else derail me from what's important, because I have a very strong desire that as I build wealth and as I change communities, that my family will still be there with me. So I'm going to put this question to you, and I'm going to wrap it up and hopefully board my flight soon. I'm going to put this question to you. What's important to you? If you went through your checkbook, or for you youngins that don't use a checkbook anymore, if you went through your bank app and you start looking at all the transactions, are you going to find that the Lord is important to you, that taking care of yourself and keeping your cup full is important to you, that your physical health and strength is important to you? Or is it all going to be McDonald's and Biscuitville? For some of us others, we say our spouse is important to us. Is our spouse ever, 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 ever on our calendar, or do they always get put on the back burner? Oh, how about this one? I was guilty of this one for a long time. Now I'll tell you what, there's a lot. Look, my ex-husband left me with $800-some-thousand in debt. I have a lot of gripes I could give to him, but on this one thing, I'm glad that he opened my eyes on, because he was right about it. Do you say your family's important, but you helping all the other strays, all the people who need help, who don't have a place to live, who don't have this happen, who don't have that, don't have a shoulder to cry on, don't have a ride to church. You're helping everybody else. And you're doing everything for everybody else, but you're not doing it for your family. You're not doing it for your business. You're not doing it for yourself. And, oh, you're not going to like this, y'all. You're not going to like this part two. I know you're not going to like it, because I didn't like it. And I'm one of those personalities that I don't get offended about stuff like that. Like, if you got a way for me to do it better, I want to hear it. Do you use all your good energy at work? You use all your good energy at church. You use all your good energy when you're volunteering, and you get home and you got no more energy to give. Your husband gets it all night long. Not gets it the way this is going the wrong way, but he gets the yappity yappity yap and the criticism. You give all your attention at work to your coworkers and your young assistant, and then you get home and your wife can't do nothing right because you ain't saved any energy for her. You might say your family's important, but your actions are telling me you don't desire a solid family. You might say you want to build wealth, you want to have wealth, you want to be a millionaire, you want to be able to make it rain, you want to be able to do all the things, but have you learned how to save? Have you learned how to manage money? Have you studied how the wealthy invest? Have you done any of those things? If you haven't done any of those things, I'm going to say to you, perhaps it's time to light a fire under your desire. And when you light the fire strong enough, you can overcome any obstacle. You can overcome any obstacle, just like sand with enough heat can get strong enough to hold the water instead of getting run over time and time again. That is all I have for y'all today. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you will join me at jjclink.com/TAGR5. That's for Think and Grow Rich 5. I hope you will get the class. You'll hear the other lessons that don't make it publicly. You'll get the private lessons. And I hope that you will join me this time next week. Next week is going to be the first Thursday. It'll be our fireside chat where I answer your money questions with what I like to think is style and grace. Now, I'm going to do this. I'm going to post this in the chat real quick. AskJJC.com. If you prefer not to ask your questions live on air, you are more than welcome to. Okay, as soon as that posts, please post. It's not posting. Okay, I don't know why. I can't put it up there. I don't know why it's not posting. All right. But askjjc.com, you can ask your money questions, and I will answer them next week. For those of you who are listening as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I'm very thankful that you're here listening to us as we do these excerpts from our Thursday night classes, and we incorporate them into the podcast. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to join us live Thursday nights where you can get your questions answered for free. And also, one more plug, y'all. One more plug. I'm not even going to try to type it in the chat for you. One more plug. It is the first week next week. That means we're going to have our group coaching. So you can go to jjclink.com/group and you can get in that group coaching where you can ask your questions in a more private environment. It's so powerful, y'all. It's so powerful. And if you have some money questions and you're not ready for full-on coaching yet, get in the group, y'all. It's only $49 a month and you will love it. All right. That's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.